Good morning. If you please find our seats. The meeting of the Safety Committee is called to order. Are there any members of the public who have, of course there are, who have signed and are ready to speak?
Murray Bowden has asked to speak.
I didn't plan to be here today. I had other plans. On Monday night, I went to the Roosevelt House. Sam Schwartz, good luck. Sam had a symposium there, The Futurists, What City Transportation Will Look Like in 20 Years. And a couple of the things that came up there are quite important. It was recognized that the 7th Avenue subway needed to go to Secaucus, and that's where the transportation point should be. John Degnan, the chairman of the Port Authority, has not made that information readily available to anybody, and I will be at the Port Authority tomorrow to again recommend that he be replaced. Scott Reckler, the vice chairman of the Port Authority, used to be, on Friday did a presentation also describing that the transfer point should be at Secaucus. Jerry Nadler, I guess he's a congressman, showed up at the Port Authority a couple of months ago to make a point. And I think it's time, Ronnie, or you, Freddie, show up tomorrow at the Port Authority and promote the idea that the 7th Avenue line goes to Secaucus, and at the bus station they're proposing not be done the way they want. Why would anybody want to bring in hundreds of buses through a tunnel that's jammed now when the Gateway Tunnel is going to be there, and you want to bring the people in through trains? They announced that they're going to do, Amtrak's going to do some upgrading on the Penn Station. Don't kid yourself. The federal budget is designed to destroy Amtrak. There will be no funding for Amtrak. It's going to collapse everywhere west of the Mississippi. It should have collapsed 10 years ago. They didn't have the political wherewithal to do it. They're going to stop funding Amtrak. So if they don't fund Amtrak to kill the west side of it, you're not going to get any money to do Penn Station. So don't figure that Amtrak's going to figure Penn Station, because it's not. You all are in your, and I sit back there at a lot of meetings, and I get to talk to people who you don't talk to. They know Amtrak's going. Why would anybody take a train from Chicago to Los Angeles? It's just not how it happened. But politically, it couldn't stop. It's that important that somebody at the very highest...
Mr. Bowden, I'm unofficially the timekeeper. Your time is coming to a close. Could you please sum up?
It's always a pleasure to come here, but you needed to know just how bad Amtrak is. And by the way, working with everybody at the MTA has been a pleasure. There's a lot of good people here, been very helpful, and take this opportunity to thank you all.
Anyone else?
No.
Then please, we have minutes from our February meeting, which are in your committee book. Is there a motion to approve? Second? Are there any questions or comments, changes? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, abstaining? Minutes are approved. David, would you take us to the work plan?
There are no changes to the work plan. It continues to follow SMS principles, and we have a couple of agenda items that follow those principles today.
Then please proceed with safety metrics.
The safety metrics in the Safety Committee book are, as is our tradition, repeated from the Monday Operating Committee books, and we have not prepared any specific presentations on them, but if there are any questions, we'd certainly entertain them. If not, then I'd recommend we move on to agenda item 5.
Please continue.
Agenda item 5 arose from our discussion in our last meeting, which was February, I believe, when we had a number of questions from board members concerning how and if we leverage new technology to solve old problems and improve safety in our systems. And so we asked each of the agency's safety leads to contribute a few slides to a presentation giving an example of how we are improving safety through new technology. I think you'll find it interesting to go through the examples that we've prepared.
So we're going to start off with New York City Transit. Okay, good morning. I'll be discussing some examples that New York City Transit is using to look at technology to enhance safety. In 2015, we initiated the Safety Technology Task Force along with the Technology Outreach for Safety Group. Both groups are cross-departmental teams made up of members of System Safety, Procurement, Department of Subways, Department of Buses, Capital Program Management, Staten Island Railway, and the Executive Vice President. The teams meet regularly and also with executive staff members to update them on their progress. The objectives of the group are to identify technology and new processes to enhance safety and productivity, and also to reduce employee and customer injuries. As reported on in a previous Safety Committee meeting, one of the results of the Safety Technology Task Force was the identification of the track rail transposer, the critter, which gives us a mechanical means to move rail for a continuous welded rail process instead of using 18 to 20 people to manually move the rail. We currently have leased 3 TRTs, and they're being used, and we're finding them to be very effective from both a safety and productivity standpoint. There have been no accidents among the team members using this equipment. They're so effective, we're exercising our option to purchase the 3 leased TRTs, and we're moving forward to purchase 4 more. The Safety Technology Task Force also worked on the audible pedestrian warning system, which produces an audible alert for pedestrians, and they can hear that when the bus is making a right or left-hand turn. There are 288 buses in the pilot program, and so far we completed installation on 103, and there have been no left or right-hand turn accidents on these buses. Additionally, they worked on the collision warning system that warns the operator of objects that are in front of or beside the bus. There are 145 buses in the pilot program, and so far we completed installation on 143. And training is also being conducted for the bus operators using that system. There's been 1 accident in a low light condition, and that's something that's being evaluated as part of the pilot program. These projects are reported on as leading indicators in the Transit, Bus, and Safety Committees. In an effort to reduce the risk of contact between trains and individuals and objects on the track and station areas, we've been testing track intrusion detection systems. A presentation was made to the Safety Committee early on in the process, and to update you, the first pilot was completed in July 2016. 4 vendors and technologies were tested and evaluated at 1 station for approximately 1 year. 1 vendor was disqualified due to numerous false alarms and equipment failures. And results of the pilot showed that different technologies are suited for different station configurations. In order to evaluate additional vendors and technologies and to obtain competition to see what station configurations they work best in, we plan to test and evaluate 4 more vendors with their systems in Phase 2. These include an IP camera system with server-side analytics, laser detection and real-time video analytics, integrated thermal cameras, laser sensors and video system, and laser technology, pattern recognition, and IP cameras. We anticipate the award of these contracts in June of 2017. The Technology Outreach for Safety group identified the needs for mechanical means to move heavy equipment up and down the stairs in the subway environment. A video of our current process was produced and placed on the MTA website to encourage vendors to propose a better process. One vendor proposed the MoveX stair climbing device. This video that I'm going to show shows an example of a manual method that we use along with the MoveX device. So the vendors would see this on the video and they would know where to propose their different process. We're going to be showing right now how we currently move an escalator gear with a pulley and chain system down the steps in the subway environment to get that equipment downstairs. Now wait, that's just an example because we do move also MVM machines, benches, trash cans, skids of tile and sand. So this is a machine that was proposed, and we're moving a pump now up and down the stairs, and it's a remote control device. This device is able to have a maximum load of 1,500 pounds, and the platform is 65 inches long and 30 inches wide.
Non, dehors, dans le mouillé, c'est pas grave, sur flat surface, mais pas en incline.
Je pense que la façon de... Si c'est mouillé, ce qu'il faudrait faire, c'est mettre un carpet de caoutchouc. Quelque chose, ça.
Ouais.
So you can see that's a lot better way of doing it. The Department of Subways was very impressed with the MoveX machine. So we leased 2 devices that were delivered in February, mid-February, and operation and maintenance testing and training was conducted by MoveX. Right now, various divisions in subways are going to test this equipment over the next 12 months to use it on different tasks. And some of the different tasks I was mentioning was moving customer benches up and down the steps, skids of tile, skids of sand, also the MVM machine. So we do have a lot of uses that we can test this on. So thank you.
Zuckerman had one, and then Mr. Halpern.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Kennedy,
Yes.
while I do enjoy robotics, I want to go back to the previous topic of the track intrusion detection systems.
Okay.
Over the last couple of years in this committee and at Metro North and Long Island Railroad, we've talked about trespassing being a rising reason for accidents. Does this have any applicability at the commuter rails at all, do you think?
I'm not sure yet. With respect to our system, it will address any customers that go down on the tracks, to retrieve items or get pushed to the tracks. It won't really address like a suicide type issue, but to give you an example, in 2015 we had 27 incidents where people were hit in the station area, and in 2016 we had 31. I don't know if you want to add anything. I brought Mark Beanstalk with me, who actually was managing the test project.
To answer your question, I believe, yes, that all of the technologies have direct applications to both commuter rail as well as the subway environment. There's nothing unique about the subway environment in terms of deploying this technology that it would be different from deploying it a computer rail system. And it would detect both, it has use in both safety, as Cheryl mentioned, as well as security.
Well, then I'd love to. I'd love then David to just talk about how, and maybe with Joe and Pat, just whether that's something we can explore for the commuter railroads. I realize that it's harder to get on the rail in the subway if you don't go through the tunnel. I mean, the station. Whereas obviously, it's a lot easier to access the railways or the commuter rails. But it's a start. And when I see laser detection, I think that's a pretty interesting and procedural approach to tracking behaviors. I just want to leave that for you gentlemen to think about.
Thank you.
If I could just add on the same topic, how much advance notice is the train operator given from the system that there is something on the track that's not supposed to be there?
When we did the first pilot that Cheryl mentioned, we alerted them 300 feet in advance of the station.
Okay. And I apologize for not knowing the answer to this question. 300 feet from the subway station.
Correct.
How fast is the train going? The subway going? Let me phrase it that way. Assuming it's supposed to stop at the station.
It varies. There's no set answer to that. It depends on the line and the physical configuration of the tracks leading into the station.
But the 300 feet is more than enough to stop the train, to stop the subway, assuming the operator of the subway knows that there is now something there.
Right, to either stop or slow down to a speed where visually he can determine that something is on the tracks ahead of him and then be able to stop.
Okay.
If I might suggest, I think I know where you're going, which is to see the true applicability to a commuter rail. So I'm going to ask Justin and Lori to work with Mark and Cheryl and just compare, what the feasibility of this technology is to the application, and let's come back with an update on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Albert, and then Mr. Vidiello.
Because of the weight restriction of the MoveX stair climber, could that be utilized for an escalator gear, or is that too heavy to use that system on?
Particular escalator gear was about 1,100 pounds. This machine can take 1,500. However, we have to look at the size of the gear as well as the weight and whether or not it can be substantial right on the platform.
Thanks.
Cheryl, first of all, thank you for some great efforts. These are some innovative things that you're doing here and will be very important, I think. I'm curious, on the MoveX, so the RFP or whatever you put out that resulted in that, you were aware of the MoveX before that, or you just presented the problem
right.
to
we presented the problem. We knew that we had that method that you saw on there, and we videoed that sample, an example of how we do it, and we put it online on the MTA website, and people could respond to us with a better way of doing it. We asked for a better way, and the MoveX machine manufacturer came forward with that. We didn't know about it in advance of that.
And have you done that with regularity, presented the problem, unaware of potential solutions?
We started doing that. We started the task force in 2015, and that was the first item that we got. We have looked at also trying to get someone to come forward on removing snow off the top of the bus in an easy manner. We're also going to look at some other items, but that's the first one that we actually had success on.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
I think the innovative use of the procurement process, as opposed to the government entity specifying precisely what it wants to buy, is exactly the key to this, and what makes it such an exciting program.
And just to add to that, those two task forces that I mentioned, they work together. So if the Safety Technology Task Force sees something that's needed, then they work with the group to make the video and get it online. So they work hand in hand together.
Good morning. EAPS is our Enhanced Employee Protection System, which was implemented in 2014 and is effective on all of our lines. It serves as a redundant safety measure to supplement our current on-track safety procedures. Last year, APTA awarded us the highest safety award, the Gold Award for Safety, for our EAPS system. All right, so how does it work? First, the roadway worker in charge, the RWIC, requests a track for foul time from the Rail Traffic Controller, the RTC. The RTC sends the RWIC a unique 5-digit code that only the RWIC knows, along with the limits of the authority for which the track is now blocked. Once the RTC sends the 5-digit code, the blocking device cannot be removed without the RWIC's permission in the 5-digit code, which only the RWIC knows. Once the work is completed, the RWIC ensures all employees and equipment are clear of the limits, and then they notify the RTC. The RWIC then provides the RTC the 5-digit code, and the blocking device is then removed. Now we will show a brief video to demonstrate how the blocking device is both applied and removed from the system.
Metro North Track Foreman Hall to RTC District E, over.
District E to Track Foreman Hall, over.
Track Foreman Hall is requesting foul time on number 2 track at New Rochelle, over.
Track Foreman Hall, how much time do you need and what work are you doing at New Rochelle, over?
Track Foreman Hall, I need about 15 minutes to inspect the track, no machinery, over.
Roger, Track Foreman Hall, stand by, over. So I'm placing a block between 2 west at 216 and 2 east at 217. I'm going to select a track block, which is this button right here. I'm going to go here, and it was Track Foreman Hall, so I'm going to type in his name. Then I'm going to change the reason to foul time, which I just pressed F, and it happens to be the first one that starts with F. Then I'm going to put that it doesn't have a plate order. I'm going to select that the power is on. Now the place button becomes available. Do you see the place button here?
Yeah.
So I'm going to hit place. That generates this time right here and who placed it. And I'm going to press confirmed. And the block is applied. So I can, as you can see right here, the block is applied. And here's the block. So I can hit close on the summary. And that's the blocking placement. Metro North District E to Track Foreman Hall, over.
Track Foreman Hall, over.
Track Foreman Hall, you have foul time on track 2 at New Rochelle until 1100 hours. Blocking device applied at 1045 hours, over.
Track Foreman Hall has foul time on track 2 at New Rochelle until 1100 hours. Blocking device applied at 1045 hours, over.
Roger, District E out.
Okay, this was the information that was originally sent out. Shows the BDR code 41951 for authorization 12 between SG2W at CP216 and SG2E at CP217. Metro North Track Foreman Hall to RTC District E, over.
District E to Track Foreman Hall, over.
Track Foreman Hall, we are clear of track 2 at this time. I'm releasing my foul time on track 2 at New Rochelle, 1055 hours. My BDR code is 41951, over.
Roger, Track Foreman Hall, is releasing your foul time on Track 2 at New Rochelle at 10:55 hours. Your BDR code is 41951. Over.
Roger. Track Foreman Hall, out.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this block. There's the block. I'm going to edit this block. There's the authority as it was placed before. I'm going to go ahead and type in, one of the questions is, has the person's name, department associated with the block been notified and confirmed clear of the track? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to go down to the release code and I'm going to enter the code that was just given to me, 41951. As soon as I do that, because the code's correct, if I type in the wrong code, this remove button will not be available, so I'm going to hit remove. Generates the removed at time, the removed by. I'm going to hit confirmed, and the block is removed. So you'll see that the block actually comes off. Message, the block has been removed, has been sent to the foreman.
So that concludes the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So once a block is placed on a section of track, are engineers or motormen notified about that by radio or just by the signal of the color of the lights?
They are notified by their operating bulletins as well as over the radio.
And they'll see something when they approach that section of track.
That's
on
correct.
A signal which will tell them that's not available, correct?
That's correct, yes.
So the key safety thing in that whole thing is that code, correct? Without that code, the guy in the tower can't open up that track.
That is correct.
And that code is only known to the person in the field.
Correct.
Okay.
That code is sent to the pager, and only that pager has the code. So there's no way for the RTC to ever find out that code.
Okay. We don't have the same system on the Long Island Railroad, correct? How do we make sure that this is done properly?
We are looking to exercise an option with our PTC system to put a similar type of, using a technology solution to enforce temporary speed restrictions. Right now there's a communication that takes place and paperwork that's filled out in order to ensure that there's a redundant form of protection. But because we don't have centralized train control, we're waiting till PTC comes into play.
So we'll move on to bridges and tunnels.
Good morning. We want to provide you with an update on ORT and describe how we anticipate this technology to positively impact safety for both our employees and our customers. To date, we have 3 locations with active ORT: Queens Midtown Tunnel, Hugh L. Carey Tunnel, and Henry Hudson Tunnel. I'm sorry, Henry Hudson Bridge. Next week, the 2 Rockaway bridges are going live, the Cross Bay and Marine Park bridges, specifically on Sunday at roughly 0300 hours. The RFK is scheduled this summer with the remaining bridges by the end of the year. So by the end of the year, bridges and tunnels will have switched to cashless tolling in its entirety. Next slide. So as we transition to cashless tolling, the removal of the toll plazas will positively impact employee safety, as the plazas are a major source of walking surface injuries and exposure to live traffic. Major component of our injury and hazardous profile comes from the interface with the toll plazas. So as we remove the plazas from our systems, we anticipate over time that the injury rates will improve as a result of that environment being modified. Next slide. Here's a picture of the gantries from Manhattan. Oh, sorry. Here are pictures from of gantries from Manhattan at the HLC and the QMT. And as you can see, the clear lines of sight and paths of travel into and out of our facilities unencumbered by the toll plazas, we anticipate will affect traffic flow. Next slide. So, we anticipate traffic safety to improve as there will be a consistent traffic flow with less starting and stopping, jockeying for position at the toll plazas. To date, collision analysis indicates that we are experiencing a slight positive trend at the 3 active locations, but we feel that we're much too early to truly derive a pattern as to how ORT is affecting our collision rates. We're going to improve employee safety due to less exposure to live traffic. We're going to reduce drive time and improve air quality due to less idling and subsequent emissions. Did we miss a slide, Ann? I'm sorry. Okay. So next slide. So another avenue that we're exploring as far as technology is partnering with travel applications. We are currently right now in communication with Waze, and we feel that this partnership will be mutually beneficial because we will be providing them our information through Transcom, and in turn we're going to be receiving their crowdsourcing data. So as a result of the data that we receive from them, we'll be able to use that information for traffic flow analysis, which will most definitely help us as we truly go to ORT to measure throughput. And we can also advise Waze on alternate routes. I don't know if you ever use the application, Waze will sometimes take you into communities that aren't necessarily designed to handle traffic flow to the capacity that the application is asking the driver to go into. So through this partnership, we can interface with their algorithm, and if it's an area that is not designed to handle that amount of traffic flow, we can advise Waze of that and then stop traffic from that diversion into those communities. We can compare the crowdsourcing data with our own detection and monitoring capability. And as a result of the relationships I've built with the people that are taking on this initiative, we agreed that safety is going to be part of a working group. And as this relationship develops, the information that comes from the partnership between public and private, I feel that at some point in time we can come back to you with an update on how this relationship has fostered and has helped us in measuring our own capability and technology. Another aspect of technology, we're piloting overhead technology. Right now, we have BTOs, law enforcement, staged at various areas along the roadway at our tunnel facilities to interdict vehicles that exceed the height requirements. It places our law enforcement in a relative precarious position because they are now interfacing with live traffic. We feel that this particular technology will alert us of those vehicles well upstream so that we can interdict before they get into our assets. So that's what I have.
I think the aspect of the applications with the other travel control apps is very important. But as I've said many times, that does not relieve us from the obligation to tell our motoring public as far in advance as possible when there are problems. Because in many cases, we have redundant operations. You can take the Throgs Neck, you can take the Whitestone, you can take the RFK. You end up basically, while not the exact same place, you end up near the same place. And so the issue for the motorist coming from Long Island, which I have tremendous experience in, is, okay, which bridge to take, and how far in advance do I know that there's a problem at one as opposed to the other? That information, while we may have it, is not just our responsibility to get it out to the motoring public. That involves New York State DOT, City DOT, it may involve the Port, it may involve a wide variety of operators who have that information and need to get it out to the motorist as far in advance as possible so that the motorist can make the appropriate choice, both from a time issue and a safety issue. Because we all understand when there are traffic flow management concerns, safety is of paramount importance because people lose their patience. I saw it Saturday going to the Whitestone Bridge. Okay, the Whitestone was backed up all the way almost to Citi Field because of some construction, and the issue that we had was how far in advance do we tell somebody don't use the Whitestone? Use either the RFK or use the Throgs Neck. Unfortunately, in that situation, we did not tell people far enough in advance, and we told them that there was a delay on the Whitestone when they got on the Whitestone Expressway, which is much too close to the expressway because you don't have the option then. If we had told them back on the LIE or in other places, or where I happen to be coming from for Brooklyn, it would have been a much better situation in that regard. So technology is important in that context, and technology on how we get the information out, but we collectively, not just MTA, but the transportation systems in the region need to do a better job to get that information out as far as possible. State DOT, I assume with us, has now put a sign on the Long Island Expressway all the way back at exit 39 to tell me and others, I'm sure it was just done for me, but for others, how long it takes to get to the Throgs Neck Bridge from either the LIE or the Northern State. So at that point, I can make a choice which one to take. We have those other choices that are in our system that are designed for it, and I think we collectively need to get that information out as far in advance as possible so people know it as far in advance as possible. And technology here can play a great role in that. The Easy Pass, the open road tolling, all of that relates to that issue completely. So I thank you.
Just to comment, I think the relationships that we develop with these applications are being facilitated not to obviate our responsibility, but used to validate our decision-making process.
Okay.
May I call to your attention, if you've not already done so, that on some automobiles there now is provided a method. Oh,
I'm sorry, sir, I can't hear you.
On some automobiles there now is provided a vehicle in and by which you can read speed signs from a distance, and it shows up on your dash panel. We ought to try and see if we can use that to deal with Mitch's problem. I'll give you the names of some of the vehicles that have that now. And we ought to see if we can make a connection with them.
So we move on to Lori and the Long Island Railroad.
Good morning. This morning I'm going to showcase some technology-based training solutions that are being deployed through our Employee Training and Corporate Development Department under the leadership of our Senior Director, Arthur Fugner. The goal with our technology-based training solutions, as you can imagine, we have a very complex, dynamic, 24/7 environment. The goal of these solutions is to provide just-in-time training and information to our employees, as it is critical that our employees have the information that they need, especially in the field, in order to decide the safest course of action to take. So the first solution, and both of these were deployed in 2009, is actually an off-the-shelf computer application that we leverage through the New York State government contracts. And this solution is really designed to enhance the development and address the needs of our management administrative staff. The library itself has over 2,500 courses as well as ebooks and articles, and it's really designed to provide skill building for computer applications as well as management and leadership skills. And as example, our transportation department actually developed a curriculum with 3 different tiers to encourage and foster the development of their transportation management team. So this solution is available 24/7 on and off the property, and employees can develop at their own pace and go back to things and leverage information that they feel they need to better perform their job safely. The other solution that was also developed in 2009 is we have institutionalized our capacity to develop and deploy custom Long Island Railroad content. We have a team, Daryl Somoza, Ricky Singer, and Aldrin Handley, that work together to develop specific training content and solutions to address the various needs of our operating department employees. This also is available 24/7 on or off the property. They also have the capacity to deploy mobile classrooms. So if we want to go into a yard to address a specific need, they get their laptops together, get their mobile hotspots, and they can actually deliver training as needed in the different locations on the property. In addition, the training department is transitioning to Blackboard solutions. So in the classroom itself, we're leveraging technology to be able to better engage the instructor with the students, so they can trace schematics, they can do problem solving, they can actually interact more effectively within the classroom environment. In addition, if you go to the next slide, over the course of the development of this application, we've been able to address some of our mandated training requirements that the Federal Railroad Administration has promulgated for our departments. We've also been able to develop virtual bulletin boards, and from a green perspective, we've been able to enhance the use of training materials and manuals. So we've replaced thousands and thousands of pages of manuals through this solution. So to give you an example of what a virtual bulletin board might look like, this virtual bulletin board is available to our transportation employees. It has notices, it has training aids, it has maps and practice exams. So it provides them with information that they can use to make decisions in the field, but it also helps them to have aids to prepare them for the various qualifying tests and requalifying tests that they have to take. And the second slide shows the troubleshooting guides and manuals. So our signal forces, when they go out into the field, they don't have to carry these volumes of material, that this is available to them to be able to troubleshoot and be able to go into a particular location and get the information that they need to be able to do their jobs effectively. So we found that this solution has really been cost effective. It doesn't necessarily replace classroom-based training. It's really a supplement, and with so many folks coming in nowadays expecting to be able to get their information on their electronic devices, we're really able to meet the needs of a lot of employees through these solutions.
Questions? If there are none, we're ready to go to update on sleep disorders screening and treatment?
Absolutely. As we've brought to this committee on a number of times, we have now a very active sleep disorder screening program that's in operation across MTA agencies. Ann Kirsch was essentially the manager of the procurement process, the author of the scope of work that brought us the sleep medicine vendors that are now on contract. And we've also asked John Chrissy to join us. John directs the Occupational Health Services Unit, and he and his staff are actually implementing the screening. So, Ann?
Thank you. So we just wanted to highlight some of the updates since the Metro North pilot and what we've learned in the Metro North pilot to screen and test locomotive engineers there. As we moved on, we realized we had to establish an agency-wide pilot, and to do that, we needed to develop program documents. We developed frequently asked questions so that employees, managers, personnel out in the field could really understand what's happening and how this impacts them. So where are we now? As you know, in January, you approved, the board approved the award to 4 vendors to support the testing and treatment. We're now fully underway with screening of our target population, which is about 20,000 people to start off. It's a risk-based tiered approach, so we've identified the higher risk employees first, and we'll be addressing them first as we move on and roll out the program across all the agencies. It's really important to include a wellness aspect to this approach, and New York City Transit actually introduced, ahead of the screening of the formalized program, a wellness effort to really try and get ahead with the largest population of employees there, and that's been very successful, and there's been a number of employees that have self-referred and gone through as a voluntary program ahead of the mandatory program. We actually realized we also needed to do an in-service for all of the physicians to ensure that all the MTA physicians had the same knowledge base and understood all of the protocols. And moving forward, we would be treating all employees exactly the same as they were touched throughout the agencies. So we gathered all the MTA physicians in for an in-service training really devoted to the importance of sleep health and sleep disorders. It's really more than a sleep apnea program. It really addresses all sleep disorders. But the reality is that sleep apnea is the one sleep disorder that has impacted transportation and transportation accidents. So here is just a little photograph of the physicians actually engaged in the in-service physician. This is Dr. Epstein, who's an instructor in medicine at Harvard Medical School. He's a member of the Faculty of Sleep Disorders Research Program and directs the Sleep Medicine Fellowship Program, both at Brigham and Women's Hospital. Dr. Epstein is board certified in internal medicine and a wealth of experience in his career in sleep medicine, so we felt it appropriate to bring him in to do the in-service, and that was well received by the medical staff.
And actually by Dr. Epstein himself. Yeah. I mean, he is very impressed with what we're doing here and has remained in touch. He sent me an email just last night to ask how things were going and how he could be of continued help to us.
So these are just some of the sleep apnea risk factors that you see, just to get everybody on the same understanding of sleep apnea. Some of the demographics associated really hits our environment here across the MTA. So follow up to that, what if an employee is diagnosed? We know that employees are going to have OSA. There's a number of employees that will test positive. It's important to develop trust among the employees in order to mitigate the risk and screen as quickly as possible. And really, the goal of this overall program was to keep employees working. So to have that relationship and understanding, ensure that we get an honest response from employees. They really have to understand that the goal of this is to keep them working as much as possible. And as long as they undergo treatment and follow the prescribed treatment plans, that will happen for the most part. And if there are any questions?
What happens if somebody has tried to undergo the treatment program and just doesn't make it? What happens to that person?
I can certainly let John answer, but for the most part, there are multiple options available. So it's not just one treatment for obstructive sleep apnea. There are multiple treatment options available. There is a primary treatment option that most people, I believe it's over 80%, 85 to 90%, will be able to tolerate that treatment plan of CPAP treatment.
Let me be direct in focusing where I want to go. Is there a program available in and by which somebody who just doesn't make it can be diverted to another job rather than be separated from service?
That's certainly the process for any illness or any other obstacle that keeps an employee from being able to fulfill their obligations in their particular craft. There are options available through human resources, through various regulatory requirements, legal requirements that we have, as well as just our processes here across the MTA.
Thank you.
One thing that we saw at the Metro North pilot too is that our treatment adherence rates are generally higher than just the general population treatment adherence rates. Very few people were unable to tolerate therapy. Very, very few. So I think this is just different than the general clinical environment. This is really occupational medicine, where folks are more motivated than in the general public to make it work, and we're motivated to make it work too.
Thank you. David, and to the agency heads, safety heads who are using this innovative procurement approach, that's fantastic, and I hope we can continue to expand that. I want to propose something for your consideration in line with that may or may not be helpful, but it dawns on me that a lot of these needs related to safety really ultimately bubble up from the bottom, then the middle, up to the agency heads, the need for them. And so maybe there's something we could pair with that type of procurement, which is the sort of Shark Tank. Have you ever seen the show Shark Tank? The Shark Tank approach, because I suspect if we went out to the vendor community at large and said, without defining specific problems, we're going to have a day where anyone who wants to can sign up for a 20-minute slot and come in and present to agency heads of the MTA innovative safety technologies that they think we might want to consider. We might find solutions to problems we have but have not bubbled up from the bottom or in the middle up yet, or that we just have not thought about. So just an idea for consideration.
Thank you. Nice idea.
Anyone else? That's our agenda then. The next meeting is July 26th at 8:30 a.m. Motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.